All right, so we have official confirmation of our next Nintendo Direct presentation, which is taking place this week, and fans of Donkey Kong Bonanza are going to be excited for this because it is a Donkey Kong Bonanza focused Direct. However, it leaves a big question in the June month, where Nintendo historically holds a big presentation for all of their other game announcements. And if you look at their release lineup right now, there's a lot that we need to learn, some missing release dates for games that are presumably coming soon. So we have to not only unpack the exact details of the DK Bonanza Direct that was announced, but also revisit that conversation on whether or not June is now off the table for a regular Direct, or if Nintendo maybe has a history of doing things like this, and whether or not our expectations should still somewhat be set for some kind of presentation to take place in the last week of June as well. So we're going to unpack all of this information. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And we have to first, of course, start off with the official confirmation and the news and time frame of the Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct, where you can see this post right over from the Nintendo of America Twitter account, where it says, tune in at 6 a.m. Pacific time on June 18th for a live streamed Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct presentation featuring roughly 15 minutes of information about the upcoming Nintendo Switch 2 game. And of course, we have the live stream already scheduled. You can already go in and set a reminder for yourself. Bright and early, 6 a.m. Pacific. That's going to be 9 a.m. Eastern time, or 8 a.m. in Central time, where I am at. This is going to be roughly 15 minutes. It's probably going to be similar to what we saw for like the Mario Kart World Direct, where some of the stuff is going to no doubt be revisiting certain aspects of what we saw during the Nintendo Direct Treehouse gameplay, but I do believe they're going to be showing us more because we don't know much about this game, especially considering that it is out in July. I definitely think Nintendo has a lot of presenting to do around it yet still. There is actually some new footage and things from the Nintendo Today app. Nintendo is being extremely ridiculous with this app at this point, and now not only did they block the ability to do screen recordings and screenshots from the app, but they're literally like striking the content if it's shared, if they haven't shared it outside of the app and other people choose to share it outside of the app. So Nintendo kind of back to the Wii U days with certain content that's been released from the Nintendo Today app, because they want you to go download that app. So anyway, if you want a look at Donkey Kong doing specific actions with like throwing the rocks and basically like a little controller tutorial section on how you do that, and then a quick look at some gameplay we haven't seen yet, you can hop into your own Nintendo Today app and check that out. We're going to no doubt get new gameplay details, a new look at footage we have not seen for this game yet, and you know what, it's out July 17th. We need a deep dive into it. I'm really hoping we get some story elements revealed. Like, I would love to see King K. Rool be the main villain in this particular game, and I hope it ties into a lot of the Donkey Kong Country style roots of a story perspective type of thing. Like, instead of these villains from the last couple, Donkey Kong games with Donkey Kong Country Returns HD and also Tropical Freeze, I'm just ready, like, let's go deep into the lore of the classic Donkey Kong Country games and bring back K. Rool and the Kremlings and all of the timeless characters we know from DK back in the day. Not to mention the fact that we've seen little snippets of gameplay. I'm more excited for the 3D platforming sections of this game, but just like how Sonic is kind of in his prime in a 2D setting, we've seen little snippets of 2D gameplay, like very brief, that did actually look like the classical style of a Donkey Kong Country game. And I'm hoping we find out if those are specific levels that last for an entire level, if they're just kind of like a very small snippet of where you're headed to in a 3D environment, but then you just quickly go to a 2D environment. I am actually picturing like there's some kind of extra hidden area, like you find a specific barrel that shoots you into basically a whole different zone, and that's going to be a 2D zone you have to complete, like an actual Tropical Freestyle level with a 2D action platforming type of setup. You complete it, and then you're back to the 3D world. That's kind of what I'm picturing, but I'm hoping we learn stuff like that from this Direct as well. So June 18th, this Wednesday, bright and early in the morning, tune in for Nintendo's Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct. Okay, where does that leave us for the likelihood of Nintendo holding any other Direct presentation? Because clearly we are in a situation right now where we have games like Dragon Drive that we know is coming out during the summer, no release date currently. We also have Metroid Prime 4, no release date, and while that could be a November game and it's saved for something like a September Direct, Many, including myself, are more in the mindset that Nintendo's going to release that in September, maybe even as soon as August. And I don't think that we're going to have to wait till a September Direct to actually get the announcement of the release date for Metroid Prime 4. Not to mention, there's been a lot of third-party game announcements over the summer that Nintendo was just mysteriously missing from. Like, it was pretty clear that the only game announcements that could be shown for Nintendo Switch 2 from a third-party perspective were games that Nintendo had already confirmed and announced themselves. Like, for example, the only one Summer Game Fest game, or maybe it was actually at the Xbox Game Showcase, the only one that had like the Switch 2 logo on there officially was Tony Hawk's 3+4, and that was already a game that had shown up at the Nintendo Direct for the Nintendo Switch 2, and it seems to me like Nintendo wants to save any third-party type of game announcement for the first time for their own event. As they typically do, they're very controlling with how they announce games to their fans, and it makes sense to me that Nintendo would want to have you tune into their Direct to find out the stuff that's coming to Switch 2 and not just watch it at some third-party showcase. You know, even games like Call of Duty Black Ops 7, where we know Microsoft and Nintendo have a legally binding contract that says they're bringing their games day and date with content parity to Nintendo's platforms, and yet we don't have that announcement either. Microsoft is going to show up in a big way for Nintendo Switch 2. Phil Spencer said it himself. All of their new announced games are missing any kind of Switch 2 logo, but they are coming to PlayStation 5. So yes, in my opinion, while a mainline full-scale Direct for the month of June seems less likely now, just being totally honest with this Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct, there's two different things that Nintendo could do here. One, they could definitely do a partner showcase where it is third-party announcements. They give us the Dragon Drive release date separate through the Nintendo Today app, and they really don't have that much first-party stuff to talk about until something like a September Direct, and rather we do get a partner showcase over the summer, because there is that contractual agreement that Nintendo also has with their partners where they need to promote their games so many times a year, and typically if we miss out completely in a February, June, or September timeframe for their traditional Directs, we at least get some kind of partner showcase. So that is definitely one possibility. On the flip side of that, if you just look back very recently when we were about to get the big April Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, and it was pretty apparent that we weren't going to get one in February because that time had come and gone, everybody kind of gave up all hope for a traditional Nintendo Direct before the Switch 2 Direct. And what does Nintendo do? They actually announced one for March 27th, literally exactly 1 week before the April 2nd Direct, like in the lead up to that. Even though we already had the date for the April 2nd Switch 2 Direct, they still went ahead and announced a mainline Direct for Switch 1 games the week before and held it exactly 1 week before. So when I say Nintendo is kind of off script this year with, you know, how they typically do things because of them being in a new console generation now, there is nothing that says that they can't just go ahead and still hold a mainline Direct the following week. Just because Donkey Kong Bonanza makes it seem a little bit less likely since they are deep diving this game first, it is just as possible that Nintendo does actually have a full-scale Direct up their sleeves and in the plans for the final week of June. And I do think that that's a realistic possibility, especially when you look at, I mean, at the bare minimum, we have to get some third-party announcements and dates and stuff like that for games to come to Switch 2. But I do think that there's a chance that Nintendo has enough up their own sleeves, and there's still some talk about some kind of surprise November timeframe game from Nintendo, and maybe it's out this year and it's first party and we just don't know about it yet, and they're kind of waiting to show us this. It is definitely on the table. They are in a new console generation. There was a lot of talk about them potentially holding back the Switch 2 launch date further because they wanted to have a bunch of software ready to go. And while, you know, the launch lineup feels strong, it does not feel complete by any means. And I do think that they probably have more up their sleeves that they are holding back. So I like the chances of a Summer Direct presentation of some sort still. But I do think that obviously with the Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct going first and having no official confirmation, maybe temper your expectations a little bit. We do also know that in September we have Mario's 40th anniversary, and I do think that some kind of Mario focused Direct is also in the cards, and that's probably, if I had to bet, where we will learn about the next 3D Mario game, and that will likely come out in 2026. But we do have, you know, that to look forward to, and I just don't think Nintendo stays completely silent in terms of their own Direct announcements until something like a September date, where they also typically hold their own traditional mainline Direct. So lots of updates to come. Big exciting news for Donkey Kong fans this week, and hopefully some exciting news for a future Direct to come past that for other fans of other games. in following weeks. And listen, they could go July. We could do a direct in July. We are literally, again, kind of in uncharted territories here with Nintendo because of them launching a brand new console in the month of June. So let me know in the comments down below what you're most hopeful we see next officially confirmed for Nintendo. Are you excited for this DK Bonanza Direct, and are you already sold on the game, or you're looking forward to watching this Direct to potentially be sold on the game? And what do you expect for the rest of the announcement schedule from Nintendo this year? Are you still thinking they do maybe just a partner Direct to finish out June? Do they skip June altogether and not do a traditional Direct presentation? And when is the next time you think we will hear from them in a first-party games capacity announcement schedule? So make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell. And with that, I've been Sunbro, you've been Nation. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.